Jai Sadgurudeo. Good morning to all of you. Welcome to the weekly English Satsang organized by North America Institute of Vihangam Yoga. My name is Suryanshu and I have joined this Satsang from Philadelphia. Before I proceed further, I would like to offer my prayers to the lotus feet of Sadgurudev. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. In the current times, our day to day life has become busy in fulfilling our physical and mental requirements and social responsibilities. In this fast paced, routine life, the requirements of the soul are often forgotten. So, first, I would like to congratulate each one of you for taking some time from your busy schedule to fulfill the requirements of your soul through satsang. We are blessed today to have an experienced practitioner, Utkarshi, who is joining us from Pittsburgh and has a firm grasp over Sadgurudeo Siddhant or core principles of Brahma Vidya. Utkarshi will help unravel one of the most enigmatic concepts, resilience from spirituality. I would like to now hand over to you, Utkarshi. Over to you, Utkarshi.
Jai Sadgurudeo and Pranam to everyone. Just going to remember Sadgurudev before I begin talking. Khandamandalakaram Vyaptamayena Characharam Tatpadam Darshatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha. बार बार वंदन करो सदगुरुदेव हमार यहाँ वहाँ सब ठाम में महिमा परम पार. Thank you everyone for this wonderful opportunity, and congratulations to everyone that you've taken time out of a busy weekend. Weekends feels like these days we're living our lives only over the weekends, always constantly waiting for weekends. I start my work meetings on Thursdays, for example, as greeting everyone with happy Friday Eve, and just sends everyone into a cheerful, positive note that only one more day of drudgery before they can actually start living lives. So this topic is very close to my heart, and this is what I aspire to learn from all my spiritual endeavors, the spiritual experiences so far, which is resilience. Why it's even more important for me is because I am still in the Grihastha ashram, which means the stage of life where I am bound by responsibilities towards my family, towards myself, my own health, towards the society that I live in and contribute to, the nation that I am a part of, the nation that I belong to. There are lots of responsibilities, especially until the age of 60. That's when, according to the Vedic literature, that's when the Vanaprastha starts. That's when a person should start preparing to leave detachments. And then at the age of 70, for example, the sannyas ashram start, when one should be just totally focused on uh, preparing for the next, preparing for what comes next. That is the ultimate yoga. But to reach there means that we need to have We need to navigate this grihastha ashram, this ocean of responsibilities, duties successfully. We're able to sail through it without drowning. We emerge at the other end, we reach the other end of this cycle, the grihasthashram cycle, without any irreparable damages, for example, that might hinder our ability to be able to sit for meditation when we are finally in the vanaprastha ashram and eventually the sannyas ashram. So resilience, I believe, strongly believe that it is one of the most important characteristics, one of the most important abilities that one, we all, not just a spiritual seeker, but everyone should develop and try to build upon at every moment possible. So I'll start with the cliche textbook definition. Resilience is basically the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. And semicolon, it says toughness. That's another synonym for resilience, toughness. However, when you look deeper, when you look at people who know what they're talking about, who've researched into the practical aspects of resilience, like there are researchers produced by multiple scientific organizations. I particularly like what American Psychological Association states. It defines resilience as the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. So, as you would note, it's the process of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences. So, difficult or challenging life experiences sounds like it's like a stimulus that needs to be present for one to become resilient. A number of factors contribute to how well people adapt to adversities. Predominant among them are A, the ways in which individuals view and engage with the world, and B, the availability and quality of social resources, and C, specific coping strategies. So, what I see when I was reading through this, that there are a bunch of variables that determine whether I can be resilient or not. The process starts with, or my test will start with, if there's a difficult life experience, a trauma, an adversity. So in the last global events, in the last of 5, 6 years now, since COVID began, for example, number of wars around us, uncertainties, both economic uncertainties and political uncertainties, job related uncertainties. I I can confidently say that I think most of the people would understand what I am talking about when I reference challenging life experiences, challenging situations. When you don't know what the how you will emerge from a particular situation, you don't know what the outcome is. Blessed are those that have a predefined trajectory in life where everything is going according to the vision board. Yes, it is important to try and manifest, and there are people who successfully do so. But then all of these variables, like presence of social support systems, when someone's going through adversity, why drown in silence, right? Takes a village. So the presence of support systems, that also determines, excuse me, one's ability to successfully navigate a difficult situation. But why am I talking about this in such detail? because it's important to understand in the course of context of spirituality. Resilience matters because it is an essential symptom or even proof of one's rising consciousness. So, if you say that you're a meditator, if you say you're able to meditate, you should start demonstrating, start displaying signs of resilience. And how do you define that? How do you know what are the qualities a person possesses when they appear to be resilient? They start moving from superficial awareness to more deliberate consciousness, reading the situation, reading scenarios in a conversation wherever they are, wherever they participate, or being witness to a global event. They're able to read behind between the lines on what is actually happening, who's doing what, and who's saying what, while meaning something else. Resilience, as a resilient person, is also able to interact without over engaging. They're able to listen, participate in a discussion, in a civil discourse without being hijacked by emotions. And most importantly, you nail resilience when you can confidently respond rather than react. So it takes a certain amount of mind training that to accomplish all of these characteristics. And I would like to, at this point, refute something that we read in the original definition that we read around about resilience, that it's toughness. The synonym is toughness. Resilience is less about being tough all the time. Not everyone can stay strain free and hard and undeformed in despite what pressures are put on them, but rather resilience is about the ability, flexibility, the self-regulation that people have that can help them bounce back, not bounce back to the original shape necessarily, because we all need to learn from what we go through life. Sadgurudeo in Sarved has said his reference to vipada or difficulties several times. There's one particular concept that sticks out, I think, which made a lot of sense to me as one of the milestones that we all should be aiming for. In the third mandal and the eighth chapter, Sadgurudev says, शोक मोह व्यापे नहीं दर्शत पुरुष पुराण अंतरलीला देख ही चालन सृष्टि महान. When a person's consciousness rises, that means when yoga occurs, then the person, the seeker, the Vihangam Yogi meditator is able to witness the almighty, all pervading supreme consciousness, the Par Brahma, everywhere and in everything, including within one's own self, the one's soul. That is the time when there is a complete absence of feeling sadness or even longing for something or attachment, because it leads to complete contentment. And this is the this leads to the state where life and death eventually becomes play for a yogi, when they're able to maintain equanimity because of their ability to see the almighty in everything that they do, everything that they are, everything that's happening around them. So how can we reach there? There's scientific research obviously on a lot of things, a lot of factors that contribute to building resilience. So there's something around some flexible self-regulation, that there's a person has to be able to uh, master a few steps, that in executive terms, if I may say, that the operational basis of being able to reach the display the final characteristics where you're able to respond without reacting is that when anything happens, you have context sensitivity. You know accurately what's happening in the situation, rather than being disrupted or biased by how you feel towards one of the participants who's participating, how you identify with someone else who's being impacted by an unfolding event. You should be able to maintain objectivity and be able to read जो वस्तु जैसी है वैसा ताको जान, being able to see things for truly how they are, the samadrishti. You observe, you stop, take a step back, then you make sure that you are in a position to respond before, instead of reacting and losing control to your emotions. That requires certain techniques. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But understanding that, did you observe correctly? Did you get a moment, give yourself a moment to choose the right reaction to a stimulus? And do you have the ability to learn from it? Are you able to constantly monitor how the events played out? What role you played? Did it work? Did it not? Could it have been better? And that is what eventually determines how we bounce back after an adversity. Another aspect is of the observance, that you're observing something unfolding and um, a not so pleasant event, like, for example, tragedy in the family, a loss of a dear one, or uncertainties and a loss of basic respect. For example, I've worked really, really hard, slogged the last 5 years, have been working for promotion, for example, and the annual appraisals came, the annual evaluations came. I learned about the feedback, and none of that was acknowledged. None of the hard work, none of the effort, the blood, sweat that I had put in was acknowledged. So that could be a very basic example of an adverse situation that we were in. This requires their stimulus, our ability to observe, our ability to respond. The essential bridge is there. Bridge that's needed is that we have the ability to understand and assess, give ourselves the grace on what would be the best recourse, what would be the best way to respond. And that can happen through only emotional regulation. Emotional regulation means not dialing down how you're feeling, not dialing down the anger I might be feeling in, say, with my manager while I'm being read the feedback on how well or how badly I performed in the last year. Not suppressing that, but instead regulating it, understanding where the emotions are coming from, understanding what my mind is is driven to do, what my neurological pathways are by default programmed to respond in a particular way. That is what any of us can master right within the Pratham Bhumi of Vihangam Yoga sadhana. Because essentially, we're trying to bring our mind to a standstill at the point where it's the weakest. So we can see the man ki chaal kuchal hai, that The mind's ways, the mind wandering is not beneficial. Chal is kuchal. Chal is the gate of the mind. So most importantly, it's very, very important to master that step and and understand that resilience cannot be accomplished unless the process that I talked about on being able to observe, being able to listen without getting overly engaged, being able to understand and discern exactly what's going on. And then the bridge, giving yourself the grace, understanding all of these emotional responses that are getting fired in the brain, in the mind, being able to take into account, weigh them appropriately. All that happens when one has mastery over the mind mastery. That is essentially what we all learned. The biggest technique that Lord Shri Krishna gave Arjuna right before the battlefield, Battle of Mahabharata began. So I'm taking a pause right now because this is a heavy topic, and understand how close it is. Um, I would like to understand from others' perspective, is this topic even has this even been relevant before I dive into, for example, the other aspects on scientific research supported methods to build resilience, like meditation based training. How has it helped? How has it helped executives, for example? But one thing just like to conclude with here is there is there are lots of ways in which we can engage in the world, we can be present in the world, and not all of us not all of us are for example designed or destined to engage, be present in the same ways. A big thing is like I see a lot of conversations, a lot of water cooler talk at work, in the personal. uh, Many of us being immigrants in the US, a lot of us are going through certain, we're going through emotions, we're experiencing things where, for example, people we thought who were our good friends were kind enough, and suddenly a litmus test has been introduced with the current polar um political situations, where you can start seeing exactly for someone on how far are they willing to go to maintain their kindness. What are the things one person responds to, that does not respond to, which prevents our ability to even react or respond to something that we don't feel happy about. There's a lot of uncertainty um, around the political environment, and I've seen many people who just try to say that, hey, I get through the day by not reading the news, I get through the week by not reading the news. I have no idea what's going on, and just living under a rock. But there's no shame in that approach, because the person is not the person here avoiding an overstimulated stream of information bombarding them, is not weak. They're just they have the strength, the superpower of sensitivity, of empathy. Anytime you read about a news or something, an event that's happening, unfolding in the world, in another corner of the world, there are many who would just start empathizing and imagining and feeling what a victim or a bystander would be feeling if the event were unfolding in front of their own eyes. There's a lot of research that has happened that has shown that certain mindfulness based approaches are have proven how executives, how professionals, how citizens, how l- individuals in the family context, for example, in social context, are able to overcome adversity and are able to um, emerge, sail through this ocean of storms without getting permanently scared by trauma, by issues, and still being flexible enough that they have the ability to continue to stay a learner, and they constantly building newer neural pathways as new situations unfold, as you come across newer people. So with that, I'll give it a pause here. I would like to see if there are any questions or even anyone who disagrees with anything what I said. That's what satsang is, right? We're here to discuss and pursue truth. And if I made any mistakes, those are in my own understanding of the immense knowledge that Sadgurudeo has just made widely available. It's like the universe's largest library that Sadgurudeo has opened for us. Just needs a certain decryption key because it's not as easily understood. And for that too, I rely on Sadgurudev to make sure to help, and his army of Sant, the Santamat of saints, who help us understand, not just understand the theory, but also experience it practically and put it to practice and imbibe it as part of our neural pathways. So if I made any mistake in understanding and translating anything, then it's my own forgive. I seek forgiveness for that. And with that, I will end the discussion today from my end and welcome everyone to if there are questions or anything. Jai Sadgurudev Pranam.
Thank you, Utkarshi. This is a very difficult topic, and obviously, it's one of the most complex discussions. I would like to request if anyone has any thoughts or questions. I have one, which but I'll hold on to that and until someone else wants to go first. Okay. Utkarshi, you were mentioning that there are certain methodologies which are backed by scientific research as well on how to achieve that state of resilience. If you can throw some more light on it, I think it will be really helpful.
Definitely. Uh, one of the I think one of the largest there are have been studies, there have been research, randomized controlled trials, clinical studies that happening. Um, I have received invitations to one or more. Required to wear, for example, some sensors and record like before and after of meditation session, the blood pressure, the lungs breathing capacity. But one of the most well documented ones was published in 2023, the Journal of Contextual Behavioral Science. They did a systematic review and meta analysis of about almost 57 different clinical trials. They found that mindfulness based interventions improved resilience compared with inactive controls, like compared with other placebo control groups, especially at post intervention and follow up. So compared with active controls, the folks, the groups, the populations that were trained on and they practice, mindfulness based interventions. They showed a smaller, they showed some advantage, little advantage at follow up. And overall, in terms of adversities that were thrown or challenges that they were exposed to, there was some benefit uh, that they demonstrated. There are a few other studies. There's like scientists, they've psychologists, they've come up with scales, for example, on cognitive behavioral skill building. So they identified a few things, and I'm trying to look up my researches. I'll be happy to share what I found during my research, and I'm not a psychologist by any means, but so not an expert. But there was a lot of positive correlation in 2024. Also, there was one research done by this was done by the university, a few universities in China: College of Physical Education, School of Economics and Management, Shanghai University of Sport, the mediating effect of resilience between physical activity and mental health. And it showed that there's this, the for example, physical activity and mental health, they are very closely interrelated. So our health is heavily determined by how our psyche is feeling. And on the whole, just not even looking at research, on the whole, from my own personal journey, is what I can say is that there have been adversities in my life. Um, like adversities, for example, the realization that I am mortal, uh, a very single small health condition can actually um, cause it all to end. That that happened when it was the first time I was diagnosed with Crohn's, ulcerative colitis slash Crohn's, and inflammatory. It's an autoimmune condition. But if I'm not able to ingest and digest and absorb the food that I'm undertaking, then within a period of 24 to 48 hours, I was left at the mercy of the emergency room and pumping uh, glucose into my body just to keep my vitals alive. That resilience, that experience, uh, showed me that despite me being a 27-year-old young, um, invincible individual, there are still conditions, there are still basics, there are still unknowns that can bring down Goliath. And from that point, my experience was, yes, I thought I had understood, thought I had overcome, I thought I had bounced back. And but the one thing that I was missing then is the continuous learning aspect. There was some sort of an ego that crept in, that, hey, I am someone who meditates, I am someone who practices yogasanas and pranayams, understands how my bodies and pranas are reacting. So I will be able to master this condition. And I did, to some extent. I did. I reached remission in this condition without needing any Crohn's or ulcerative colitis specific conditions. It's a rare feat. And my doctors, for example, they're surprised. They still are surprised that there's no, when I go for my regular biannual colonoscopies, endoscopies, they say that it's they're very pleased to say that there's no sign of any inflammatory bowel disease, any autoimmune condition ever being present in there. It's like healing. The intestines have healed. But the issue was, I mastered one aspect of it, which is being able to respond, being able to learn from it, being able to discern what was happening, but then keeping myself like a sponge. I lost out on that aspect, and that's when the Almighty and the universe and Sadhguru, they all intervene, and I have gone through a few more rounds of similar conditions. There are other chinks in my armor that were exposed that again proved that no matter, I am a meditator, meditation is supposed to keep anxiety away, make one immune to panic, the misconceptions that I had that, hey, I can never be depressed because I am joyful inside from within. I know the source of joy resides within me. I can invoke it, I can get meditative at will. But still, in the presence of Sadgurudev, I have broken down. I have, there have unfortunate and unexpected results where I kept getting diagnosed every year. The last 5 years, I think, I spent every year adding a new diagnosis to my condition, both physical conditions and mental conditions, um, panic disorder, anxiety, depression, sleep apnea, whatnot, and then constantly getting shocked at by, hey, why is this happening? I thought I had learned the trick to resilience, but when you think that the learning has ended, that is these again, that is some sort of a rigidity that's building in, which will hamper our resilience in the future. So that's all I can say. Be happy to share the results that I've found, but it's a sequence of steps. It's not just one thing. And understanding all variables that need mastering, all variables that you can control. Like not everyone can control the surroundings. We don't choose the family we were born into, but we can choose a family that we live with. For example, this Vihangam Yoga family. So I can choose the Sang, the companionship I have when I show up for this satsang as much as I can. So what are the variables I can control, what I cannot control? Understanding that and constantly being open to learning that there will be life lessons thrown at me every day, every moment. And there's a lot I can, lot of personal sansmarans where there's things that discussed with my boss, for example, things I've discussed in private, my deepest thoughts with Suruchi only, things that I have talked about to the Almighty, hopefully, again, without hearing a response ever during my meditation, well, sitting down for meditation, things that I implore the Almighty about. Sadgurudev bringing all that to the surface, giving me responses, not a few days later, sometimes a few years later, without me even asking for it. There have been numerous situations where it's been a reminder that, hey, Utkarsh, calm down, you're still a student, you are a student, stay open to learning, and constantly being reminded that this is the grihast ashram. So I that was my long-winded way of responding to Suryanshu ji, but I'd be happy to, if you could remind me, I'd be happy to share some of the research-based sources.
No, thank you, Utkarsh. Um, that was very personal and touching. I think it would have resonated with a lot of people on the call. Um, I would request if anyone has any other questions or thoughts to come forward, and feel free to unmute yourself and come forward if there are any thoughts, questions.
Jai Sadgurudev Suryanshuji. This is Suruchi here. I would just like to add a few lines if that's okay.
Yes, please go ahead, Suresh.
So I just want to add, like we've been talking about resilience and how to build resilience and why it's important. I think just one conclusion which has been said by Utkarshi throughout, but just phrasing it out, that there are so many things in life which are not in our control. The society around us, the things happening around us, family we are born in, everything impacts how resilient we are. But working on becoming more resilient, the one surefire way that I've seen, not just working with Utkarsh, working for me, and working for so many people around me, is meditation and the other aspects that Sadhguru Dev has taught us, seva, satsang, sadhana, are the three pillars which help eventually in building that resilience. And the more you do it, whichever aspect that you focus on, and hopefully all three, seva, satsang, and sadhana, is one, like the things that are in your control to build that resilience. And we have there have been a lot of things that have been shared in the past, and if you google it, you might be able to find more, that meditation scientifically has shown so much difference in the brain waves that it creates, which in turn can be directly or indirectly responsible for improving the resilience. So irrespective of wherever we go, it's this, the only thing that is in our control to continue building resilience and continue doing things that we need to do in our day-to-day lives. Thank you, Jai Sadgurudev.
Thank you, Suruchi.
Ji, Jai Sadgurudev. Good morning. It is very nice and touching to hear Utkarsh ji and Suruchi ji. So I just wanted to kind of say a few words on that. Um, the resilience from spirituality. I think if one is established a little bit in the spirituality, there's more qualities that begin to emerge above and beyond resilience. In resilience included, actually. And one of the thing is that when we connect that some of those qualities emerge from meditation. What I have understood so far, that especially in the Vihangam Yoga meditation, is probably different from a lot of other ways of meditation that happens. And maybe I haven't really looked into deeper research how they map out the outcomes. I hear that the brain waves have settled down, the blood parameters have improved, and heart has done better, and the people's lives have changed and improved. I think it is probably possible because definitely it's an exercise, and if somebody is doing it on a even if somebody goes to a gym on a regular basis, it definitely helps quite a bit actually in their physical health. So I think when some sort of a meditation is being done, it helps with the mental calmness. But that mental calmness is a temporary suppression of vritti, or the tarang, or the variability in the state of the mind. To sustain that is called resilience. And I think a physical act of meditation, I will be surprised, or I have not come across any article, maybe somebody can help me, which can actually provide sustainable mental stability. Because what I have understood is that the sadhana is supposed to sadhana, which means it has to begin to dissolve, or reduce our attachments in the physical world. Chah ko hatana. cha na means removal of the attachments is called the sadhana. And the technique allows us, when we do the, especially coming to the Vihangam Yoga meditation, the purpose is to experience our progression in the path of spirituality. It's like the mental lab. It is a laboratory where now we are experiencing, and especially what Swamiji tells us is as we progress from level 1 to level 5, we begin to experience the Brahma. And I think yesterday was a very beautiful discourse from NP Singh Uncle. Some of us were actually on that call. And he said that the physical sciences is looking at like a telescopic perspective of the world, where you look at a very, very tiny atom or a fundamental particle, and you're trying to blow it up as much, as big as possible so you can study it, you can understand its behavior. Whereas in case of spirituality, it is just the opposite, reverse magnification, which means the entire cosmos or the universe is so infinite. And we actually, with the grace of Sadguru, it can be reverse magnified so we can begin to experience as part of the meditation. And so when they progress, they begin to see the sun, the moon, they begin to see the 5 elements, which is so infinite. And then all the way to Akshar Brahm, and eventually to the Almighty. And all of that happens just by closing eyes. So I think that has to be understood. And so I think just depending on meditation uh, to and calling it like a complete spiritual path may or may not. I mean, it could result into the same outcome, but looks like it has to be backed with the philosophy behind that. And that is what all the scriptures are talking about, that um, vidya and paravidya and aparavidya, they both have to go together, which means the experimentation, which is as part of the meditation technique, and the knowledge of the meditation, they both have to go together. And then one will have a much more comprehensive understanding that how to dissect between the truth and the untruth. All of those begin to happen. So then we begin to not just be resilient on every subject, but we can choose on what to be resilient on and what not to be resilient on. Very much like Arjun was very much in that dilemma. Oh, I think I'm done. I don't need all this fighting. I'm good enough. I'm going to become a good saint, and I will attain the Almighty. And that is when Krishna was telling him, no, no, now you have come to the point where that is no longer a choice for you, because now we are going to make a choice, which is which you have to, because if you do not do this, then you're definitely going to fall from grace. So those kind of discretionary uh, decision making also has to happen in our everyday life on any subject. And then one other thing which I realize is that, which is the hardest one actually, that if we have to ask for anything, even in the physical life, we ask only the Almighty. Everyone else, we persevere. And without changing our inner state, samta bhav. Because if the negative circumstance presents, we persevere that under the understanding, still calling it a grace, that all of my previous life's karma is getting dissolved. I'm so grateful that I'm actually on the path. And when good things happen, I'm not too excited, because that is also a grace, maybe some good karma in the past is manifesting, and now I know that whatever is happening, I'm not it is not supposed to impact my inner state, because either way, in both circumstances, I'm only either grieving or thanking just one entity, and not my boss, not my business partner, not my friend, not my family, because they're all part of the samsar. They're all part of the sukh, dukh, dvesh. A beggar asking another beggar is not going to help the other beggar. And this kind of thought process begins to happen, and not just the thought process, but it begins to become part of our lifestyle. And that is what makes the path of Mahavir. Others may never realize it, but that's what should begin to actually happen in the true path of spirituality. So just wanted to share that. I hope I have not been too far off from the uh, from the message, but this has been my understanding. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Niranjanji. Beautifully put. And thank you so much for sharing the example from NP Uncle Ji's talk yesterday. I was not there. Hasmukh by Jai Sadgurudeo. I know you're out, but if may I before I forget, I want to just uh, talk to one of the points that Niranjanji just made. That's okay. So Niranjanji, that's that example of the telescope. That is a I think it hits the nail on the head that why is modern research and scientific research not able to uh, help us understand, help the readers understand that meditation can actually lead to something permanent, something permanent. There's nowhere everywhere, nowhere anywhere that so I think the way I look at it, the one who's looking through the telescope, that focal point, the origin of the coordinates, right? The frame of reference, that I being at the origin, I have my eye in the telescope's lens, that is not fully well understood by modern science just yet, because we come to think of ourselves as the mind, the body, the brain, everything that's working towards receiving inputs, processing them, and performing actions. Um, However, spiritually, when Sadgurudev reminds us that you're not the sharir, you're the shariri, that we're not the body, but simply inhabiting the body, that allows us to understand that there might actually be two drivers at play. Everything that I end up accomplishing in my life, all the routes I end up taking, the soul, has one intent, but there's someone who's constantly guiding me, influencing me, and sometimes cajoling me into taking a turn that the soul, would not have taken on my own. So that entity is the mind, right? So there is the end state of spirituality, of our journey, when we are done with all our responsibilities here in the grihastashram and everything. Ideally, we should be in the fifth stage of Vihangam Yoga meditation, meditating on Sar Shabd. That is a constant connection. There is a direct line. Our soul's focus will 100% unbroken, unshaken, be in connection with the Almighty, the Supreme Consciousness, the Sar Shabd, in the who's prevalent in his pure form in three-fourths of everything that exists. We are only in the one-fourth. But in order for that connection to happen, does that mean that I stop living my physical life here? I stop requiring anything that my body needs, or interactions that the fellow humans around me need? No, because then there are two there is a frame of reference where I am constantly, I have my eye, my soul has my eye on the Almighty, but the mind is somehow put in an autopilot mode, adhin, under the guidance of the soul and the Almighty. All of life's processes happen automatically. And again, I'm not there yet. I am not an expert, so I cannot speak uh, with authority, but I know I have had glimpse. And the first thing that shook me was uh, when I saw myself as separate from this body, that there can actually be two frames of reference. That is where the soul can actually invert that telescope and see everything all at once without being constrained by the laws of physics that we understand, where the physical eye can only see in a particular range. So that frame of reference, the understanding of the frame of reference, is not something that modern science has understood yet. That I believe, again, with my limited understanding experiment so far, is that is why you never that is why everyone talks about mindfulness, and everyone talks about closing the eyes, for example, whereas the process doesn't even start unless you bring the mind to a standstill with your eyes open, on a steady frame of reference. The platform that you're standing on when you begin meditating, that has to be unshakable. If I focus on breathing, breathing changes, fluctuates. If I focus on a jhilmal jyoti, flame, that fluctuates always. Anything else, everything else around me will fluctuate, but my frame of reference can be solidified, frozen in place, if I am gazing at for example, the tip of the nose, the pratham bhumi. Everything else, that frame of reference can be logged in space and time when I begin to meditate. So I think modern science, when they understand this, that hey, mindfulness, giving them one thing to continuously recite, one thing to continuously gaze at, uh, is very different from actual meditation. Uh, and we're also not meditating yet, so that is one thing I understand, is why modern science doesn't is yet to grasp that the simple act of meditation, sadhana, continuous sadhana, can actually lead to a permanent effect where chalte firte uthte baithte, like a yogi is walking around and conversing, appears to be participating in the life here, but is actually, the yogi's soul is actually in constant communication with the Almighty, in yoga with the Almighty, union with the Almighty. That's why they experience contentment, equanimity all the time. Whatever happens, they feel hungry, they feel tired, they get injured, that doesn't affect them, because that's only superficial, only at the body's level, not with the from the real point of reference. So don't know if that makes sense, but that is something that immediately popped into my mind when you gave that beautiful example from NP Singh uncle ji.
जी 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 बिल्कुल थैंक यू उत्कर्ष जी यस या
Hasmukh ji,
Yeah,
you have a
yeah.
question?
I will thank you, Utkarshi, for sharing your personal experiences. And everybody goes through the problems. In the discussion, you mentioned about science and spirituality. Basically, we all know science is a journey outside. Spirituality is journey within us. And so, as long as we are resisting, fighting, pulling or pushing, as long as there is resistance, we're going to feel the stress. And we call it meditation, but there comes the point where we all go through meditation and have glimpses of experiences. And what I have found is, as long as there is acceptance, no matter what, the problems are going to be there. It's a prakriti, it's a nature of it. Three kinds of problems: adhyatmic, adi bhautik, adi daivik. This will be all we all know. There are problems going to be there, whether we India or America, anywhere, family or office, regardless. So if we have to live with that, make whatever adjustment we have to make. But the idea that I feel in my life, that as long as when I accept it and be calm within rather than resisting and fighting, the answer does come from within. And when I go within myself, inward, beyond this mind finding, beyond just looking and researching and too much. I mean, it's good to do research and everything, but again, one research says one thing, and tomorrow research says something else, and it just keeps on going all through the. We have noticed in the development of science, but there is something within us, and whenever I got to that point, I found the contentment, the fulfillment without gaining anything. And that's the point that I think Swarved mentioned in various locations, that we have to go to that, whatever bhumika we have. But ultimately, it's the whatever technically we can define in Dasam Dwar or Ekadash Dwar or whatever, Surti, Makarta. These are all things we all know. But when we go there and just relax without fighting, uh, that's my feeling, and that's what I've noticed. So I don't know if somebody can ask.
That's a beautiful sentiment. I think one takeaway where rigidity rigidity is the opposite of being resilient. And Ashoka, you said just initially accepting is, to me, accepting is doesn't just mean that submitting to fate, that some adversity happens, that giving up on everything. That's how I used to be, and that's how I even after 10 years of meditation, I still was the same way when something happens and, oh, this is the Almighty's wish. So one of the examples I use is that, yeah, if I have a leaf, I'm near a tree and there's a branch and a leaf on that branch right in front of me, I can try and blow on it as hard as I can, but that leaf is only going to flutter if the Almighty wishes, allows it to. So it's a simple act, but in my hands, in my power, it's only the effort, the ichha gyan prayatna, the desire, the knowledge, and the effort I make. Uh, those the three pure qualities of a soul. Only then, that's all I can do, and I am independent of doing my action, my karma, but I am not independent in receiving the results of that karma. So I used to be a certain way till about 4 years ago, where, yeah, this bad thing happened, it's all right. Someone's giving me solutions, for example, astrological solutions, or rituals, for example, uh, that, hey, do this havan, do this yashna, do this puja, and this problem can be solved. This is life threatening condition, it can be alleviated, it can be softened, so you're not blown as far. And I would just dismiss it, saying, no, it's the Almighty's wish, it's my past karma, I have to go through this and I have to endure it. Only then I can burn through the prarabdha bhog that this lifetime has brought me. But then Sadgurudev came and he said things. He's clarified some things, and he sent me, like he would give me, he would create situations in life where I ended up in the Madhumati ashram, for example, to have my parents do the take my parents to one of the pilgrimages, right? They do the ancestral rites and everything at the Gaya bank. And my purpose there, I thought, was just taking them, but i was I was prohibited from even stepping outside of the Madhumati ashram while that ritual was happening, while my parents were performing that ritual, even though they're in their 70s, they have difficulty. They were imploring me that come with us, you don't have to step on the ghat or something. But I was prohibited by saints there from even stepping out of the ashram at that point, which I understand was to protect me. And I was taught things. I was taught meditation, made to practice sit down meditation. And then I was rebuked so many times that that God, the Almighty, is actually trying to help me, give me solutions. Because it's very important to realize when you're on the spiritual path, uh, nothing is pre-written. We're actually makers of our own destiny, because as soon as we submit to the will of Sadguru, it's like the Jivan Dori Tabdai, right? My life's thread, I am handing it to you. You, my Guru and Almighty, you make it run as you deem fit. That, as soon as that submission happened, if any of you have gone through that, a lot changes. I know examples. I know in my personal situation where, for example, a person's lifeline was supposed to end 2 years ago. They're still alive, despite having a stroke and whatnot. Against all improbabilities, that person's still alive, and that's is a guidance. It's an indication that when you're on the spiritual path, you're on an accelerated track. You're in an accelerated career progression, if I may, similar to that. That yes, I am burning through my prarabdha here, the life and the bank of karma that I have to burn through within this lifetime. But on top of that, yoga ki agni mein karma jal ke bhasma ho jate hain. Simply put, how Sadgurudev keeps reminding us that in the flame of yoga, all even the sanchit, the accumulated karma that are not here yet, they will start burning away. A spiritual person, when you're on the spiritual path, life might get a little more, might seem a little more challenging even, because you're now experiencing things at the speed of light, things that I would have experienced when I am 70 or 80 years old. Those physical ailments I'm experiencing right now for my own benefit, because I'm much stronger, much physically I'm stronger, mentally I'm stronger, economically I have more options to wither through that and to emerge successful without having any personal enduring any personal permanent damage, rather than having to endure all that when I'm 70 and 80, and I would unmissing inevitably I would be bedridden if the same things came up that time. So that's a lot of some learning. I understood that, hey, whatever help we are getting, whatever things we get, yes, it's important to be flexible. And I appreciate everything you just said. I completely agree with it. But also continue to try and find solutions, whatever Sadgurudev comes, or um, the Almighty, the universe might send our way through various means, as long as it's not detrimental to my spiritual progress. So that's, I don't know if I made sense, but you bring up such wonderful points, and these are some of the examples that I hope resonated with the what your ask was. And I would really like to hear others also if they have undergone similar experiences where things happened and they had to show flexibility while trying to endure hardships versus rigidity that made it difficult for them. Jai Sadgurudeo.
I basically said we don't have to be lazy or just not do anything. Problems come, we have to face it. We do our best. It's just the fact that we try to resist to the point where we feel the stress. Uh, Problems are going to come regardless. As long as we are breathing, problems are going to be there. But there is always, when we go within ourselves deeper, which is what the whole root of Swarved is go, I mean, we don't have to just go in this state during only in morning meditations. Even while doing everything, cooking or working or whatever, if we have our attention there, then the stress become less. And we just continue whatever we have to do. And this whole idea of differentiating between spiritual and non-spiritual, I have noticed that to be the 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 burden to me. Spiritual and non-spiritual, we're fighting. Everything is spiritual, everything is one. Why we are differentiating one versus others? And I think when we don't do these divisions, we come to the point at the bottom, just basic center of it. Why we're not pulling or pushing. It just that balance point. We have to say, we have to adjust our situation depending upon the situation that we have to face to. So I'm not saying we have to be not doing anything, but how we are doing it is what I have found in my life is when I'm just fighting. I'm going to do this. I'm going to control this situation. Then it becomes a problem. And when I'm not doing that too much, it works out itself. And that's the amazing thing. And that's when I was saying the sense of contentment, the fulfillment that we feel within us, uh, it's inbuilt within us. Where, at what point you go to uh, all these five bhumikas we always, have learned about, but it's not doing only in meditation, is what my saying is. Thank you.
I understand. Thank you for clarifying. Completely agree.
Yeah, and I think Hasmukhi is saying is absolutely rings the bell. Actually, when we don't hold on to something, things do work out, and when we're not like really too much um, puzzled about it. And the other thing is that with the knowledge of spirituality, if well, knowledge is one thing, but let's say if one is hell bent on doing the spiritual is hell bent on progressing in the path of spirituality, that person in the physical realm, even though the physical and spiritual they are no two different things, because they will spiritualize their physical activities. So it is, like even in Bhagavad Gita, it says very, very, very nicely that when we do selfless work, let's say even at job, you're doing more selflessly than others. That's a good karma actually, but still that's not spiritual. But when we are doing the same thing with the mindset that whatever I'm doing is actually also a service of the Almighty, because the world belongs to the Almighty, and the work that I am doing is contributing, is producing something which is helping the society and helping to run this world. So with that mindset, and then we are allocating that to the Almighty, on the feet of the Almighty, then we just spiritualize that. And as a byproduct of that, what looks like, which is naturally happens, is that we tend to do things that are needed to be done and not beyond that, which means, there's always feedback that happens, that, oh, there's so many feedback, so many are negative, so many are okay, so many are positive, and so on and so forth. And then what I have personally noticed and experienced is that people spend so much effort in improving the negative feedbacks, so that they and in process of that, they make themselves a little bit more entangled. I think those are the situations where a person who knows, who can dissect what matters and what not matters, he will be able to do things that really needs to be done. And even Sanji used to say that intellectual person will do what he likes to do the best, but a genius will do what is needed to be done. And I think those kind of approach begins to happen because that person begins to know that uh, the whatever the outcome that has to happen um, as part of the prarabdha, it will happen. If one has to become a billionaire, he will become a billionaire, even though he may become for a very short lived if he does not do more kriyaman. It may just become and then it will blow off again, but at least he will get to that point. So so that level of understanding when begins to happen, then the person knows that my duty is to be able to spiritualize the act that we are doing. And I think that begins to help quite a bit in terms of not getting entangled too much, because this world of illusion is also the world of entanglement. And how do we not become entangled? Because until a sadhak has reached the destination, there's a high possibility of falling down. And that fall will most likely come from entanglement. That is why it is very, very important to stay uh, disentangled and not disengaged, but disentangled. And one knows where to put the effort and where not to put the effort. And that decision can only come from purified intellect, which is through vivek and satsang and understanding of the knowledge, I think. So that's ji, Jai.
Um, Thank you, Niranjan ji. Thank you, Utkarshi. Thank you, Hasmukh Patel ji. Um, I want to thank everyone who joined in this discussion and took part in the session. I'd like to move forward, but would just want to open up if there are any other thoughts or comments from anyone else before we move forward.
One last thing I want to say shortly is Almighty. I used to think somewhere, but when I feel that Almighty is within me, and when I feel like that, it's equally fulfilling. So uh, it's not a journey that we have to go somewhere. The whole idea of going there, we will never get there. It's within us. Journey is already accomplished, but there is a example. Somebody says, uh, "You really, if you want to see your face, it's already there in the mirror. All we have to do is to clean the mirror." That's all we have to do. The image is within us. Almighty is within us. We have to clean ourselves. Going some wrong places, we do. So I think the whole idea of going somewhere has always uh, kind of obstacle to me. It's already within me, within all of us. Thank you.
Hasmukh ji, one thing is that it's not about going somewhere. It is about doing vikarma, and that will take. And the vikarma is all the seva satsang sadhana, right? And it is not about like going anywhere. That is correct. It is about how we devote ourselves more and more into vishesh karma without dropping the ball in the physical world. So that is it's like walking on the sword basically, because what that means is it will begin to manifest in the physical lifestyle. Because for example, I can say that earlier I would try to spend a lot of time around the cafeteria, around the eating area, to find somebody to understand office politics and this and that. There's so much wasted time. So now you basically just don't do that. You just stop doing unnecessary activities. And but then once you stop doing that, what will we do? Well, what we do is things that are maybe just listening to satsang, listening to Mahapurush, immersing the mind in in immersing into that realm as much as possible. Because because this is also abhyas. This is part of the abhyas, and without that abhyas, um, um, and the abhyas can only happen once we learn the concepts better. And that learning the concept requires a lot of swadhyay in form of listening, reading, whatever. And so then the person knows, okay, I don't need to spend more than 5 minutes in the coffee area. I don't need to go there. So all of these things, I think in the Bhagavad Gita also, like he says that, like the way the turtle withdraws all its limbs, right? That analogy is given. So this is kind of similar thing, because right now our senses are very much distributed, and we are trying to immerse and entangle into multiple of those situations. And so now I think it's just that we are keeping those senses more contained. And so it is not a easier task to be able to implement. It is, but then I think as we understand more and more, then we begin to kind of get more techniques. But then it will also manifest from the outside, that people will begin to get different opinions about you, that, oh, this guy is so becoming like, very much like introvert. All these kind of words will fly. And and it will definitely hurt perception, by the way. It could in some cases impede growth in the physical world. It's possible. But now one person has understood that growth will happen regardless, because that is the outcome is part of the prarabdha. What one is supposed to do is just keep on the trajectory, stay there, and um, not invest unnecessary effort. Because what we see in the physical world is where people spend so much effort and energy into impressing others so that they can change the outcome. So now the person who has begun to understand the spiritual and what the vikarma is, he knows that in spite of investing so much effort, the outcome is predetermined actually. The phal, they say that in prarabdha, 6 things are already given. Your janma, mara, sukh, dukh, safalta, and safalta. 6 things. I always tell people that remember these 6 things. This is what Mahapurush tell us, that these 6 things are already determined at the time of the birth of the jiva, and we still keep on trying to change those things, and those are unnecessary wasted effort. And I didn't know all that before, but when we do the vikarm, only then we begin to know that, and then we begin to change our lifestyle. So this is, and the good thing is when we have this Sant Mat and Sant Samaj, we can actually give it a test drive. We can ask our guru and get some validation. And that is the biggest thing, actually, that I think that this allows for us. We are not just so then we begin to know that this is I'm on the right path, and so then yeah. So just wanted to kind of demystify that a little bit. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Once again, heartfelt thanks to all the participants who actively engaged in this discussion, um, and brought up insightful thoughts, shared interesting facts, shared personal experiences. I think we talked a lot about resilience. We talked a lot about the attributes, the underlying variables, the factors that drive them, the methodologies which can actually help achieve the state. I know we circumvented on a different set of topics as well, which I think were uh, helping a lot in demystifying and or probably like contextualizing some of those topics. So thank you everyone for joining and like showing your excitement and bringing your experiences and sharing those with us. Um, Now we have reached the last phase of today's satsang. I request everyone to sit down for Shanti Part. In Shanti Part, we choose in Shanti Part, we chant for peace for everyone in this universe. May Sadgurudev bless the entire cosmos with peace, love, and prosperity. I would now request Jessica G to recite the last few lines of Shanti Part for us. Jessica G, over to you.
Thank you. Jessica Rudev. Shanti Path. Hey Prabhu Shanti Swarupa Ho. Shanti Shanti Maya Shanti. Shanti Shanti Jana Shanti Ho. Purna Shanti Maya Shanti. Hey Prabhu Shanti Pradana Kara. Puraho Sarva Shanti. Deva Sada Phala Shanti Maya. Shanti Shanti Sukha Shanti. Uliya Sadgurudev Bhagavan Ki Jai.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica G, for a soulful recitation of Shanti Part. I would like to thank all of you for joining today's satsang. I encourage everyone to ponder upon the topic that we discussed today, um, and also imbibe them in your personal life as much as you can. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thanks to Sulbha ji, Utkarsh ji, Suruchi ji, Niranjan ji, Hasmukh Patel ji, Jessica ji, and others for their seva and active engagement in this session, and for the team behind this for organizing and coordinating this satsang. I pray to Sadgurudev for peaceful and spiritual week ahead for all of us. See you all next Sunday at 9 a.m. EST on the same Zoom session. Have a wonderful day and week ahead. Jai Sadgurudev.